being able to comment in a respectful manner, in a tasteful manner, and contribute positively to public discourse through a film such as Past Lives is very important for our culture. Hi, welcome back to the channel. That's what we say here on YouTube. I'm doing a Past Lives film review today. I saw it last night in the theater. Unfortunately, the seats weren't really that packed. I wish they were more packed. I think they deserve to be more packed. It's a brilliant film by Celine Song. I'm not gonna give the synopsis because you can look it up. You ought to be looking this film up. I thought this was an exceptional performance from Greta Lee. I'm glad that she's getting more of an opportunity to strut her stuff, and boy did she in this. I just think it was incredibly well cast. It wasn't trying to be more complex than it knew itself to be. It accepted the scenario and it was so naturalistic. We always love a New York mumblecore moment. I truly don't really have many complaints. I want to say the acting from everyone was top-notch. The writing said enough. I appreciated the little vignettes that it snuck in there. I really liked the cinematic transitions. The score wasn't too much. It was tasteful. It didn't make... Sometimes I feel like sometimes scores can tend to make it feel unrealistic, but this one didn't. And it painted the tone and the perspective of the lives of the characters very well. So that was done extremely well. Oftentimes I find it difficult to jump timelines, but the way that they did this just very matter-of-factly while still maintaining an artistic framework and being more of a, I would say slightly more avant-garde of a film as far as commercial or mainstream films with theatrical distribution have. I saw You Hurt My Feelings a couple weeks ago and it was a similar, New York mumblecore moment. What I love about these types of films is they just comment on contemporary issues matter-of-factly, which you don't get in the theater these days. There's a lot of redundancy in the theater, especially regionally, but also on Broadway, and very few times, Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen and a couple others being the exception, do we handle just the mundane of the human existence. I think theater does a great job of extraordinary circumstances and showcasing those and exploring them in less accessible ways. Being able to comment in a respectful manner, in a tasteful manner, and contribute positively to public discourse through a film such as Past Lives is very important for our culture. As a viewer, I really appreciated it. It was a matter-of-fact, somewhat emotional, realistic depiction of an experience that a lot of us are having on Earth. I felt, having sobbed for at least, 60% of it, without projecting too much of my own experience with a specific person from a past life. I just really loved that it brought this experience to the mainstream conversation, because it demystified all the prejudices around having a metaphysical experience here, because that's what we're having, right? We're humans, but we come from higher consciousness, and where our spirit meets our body is something creates the mind-body problem in philosophy. It goes beyond that. There's an undefinable explanation for our experience here unless we start to look deeper and do work with higher sources, higher powers. What was important to me as a viewer in seeing this was seeing my experience be validated, at least spiritually, and see that my experience is not insane. When you have feelings and compulsions that are inexplicable, but the third dimensional reality does not validate them, at least not immediately, it can be very, very isolating and confusing. To bridge the gap between both dimensions, which this film does, is deeply important because it showcases for people who don't understand that perhaps in their subconscious they can start to unwind, even their conscious minds, what really is the experience here on Earth and the purpose of it for our soul evolution. I enjoyed that the scenes were long. I enjoyed that the dialogue was more theatrical. The rhythm and the pacing were very sound. Nothing felt forced in writing or in performance. Even in cinematography, everything felt pensive and present and was behaving and moving and breathing in a place and at a rate where it needed to, where it was meant to. The most tragic thing to me about this, and I think it could be viewed as a tragedy, is that Nora and Hae-sung didn't find a way, at least in this snippet of their lives that we were able to see, find a way to come together. And that's the argument the film makes, you know? There may not be a reality in this life for them to come together. Nora is not interested in compromising. Hae-sung, in this scenario, if you want to define it by the twin flame runner-chaser archetypal situation, Nora is the runner and Hae-sung is the chaser. Hae-sung loves Nora, and he wants to be able to say that. And to see a man be able to so boldly communicate and honestly, vulnerably, his feelings, it ought not be bold, but that's the culture we live in at this point. To come to New York from Seoul and be honest and vulnerable and operate at this pace that sort of creates a detour in Nora's existence where she has to slow down and begin to confront who she really is inside. New York is the mecca for the hamster wheel of go, 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 status, ego. There's really just so much more that we can do culturally there as a city, and I think Hae-sung came to challenge that a little bit. And unfortunately, Nora and Arthur are so committed to their writing and their existence that they're missing out on being fully human. And this is something that I think happens often. To be able to balance the work and the humanity as an artist in this world is very challenging. You need to survive, and when you can find a way to survive through your art, that's an immense privilege, that's an immense gift. But when you lean too far into that, you start to lose the natural learning and the natural presence in life and begin to look at other people's circumstances or your own circumstances in an exploitive manner, using them for your work. This was a reminder for me to take the natural ebbs and flows of life in my art and my personal life as they come and accept them as they come. Allow the well to be filled instead of filling the well myself in those ebbs. And during the flows, to remember to stay engaged with my daily life and my relationships at the same time. There's a lot of transference back and forth that's hard to manage and balance because we live in a system that doesn't make it easy to do so. We live in a system that's built to annihilate artists. But here we see two artists surviving it, but in a way closing themselves off to a higher power. And is that a result of New York City itself? Or in Nora's case, is that a result of being a very sensitive individual, having gone through a massive life change at a very young age, at the age of 12, immigrating from Korea to North America? And she even mentions that she used to cry a lot as a child. I imagine she had to grow up very quickly. This feeling of not being able to express one's sadness or emotions is something she communicated, and she had to shut it down. And you can tell, at least I could tell, Nora was very emotionally shut down and not open. She chose a level-headed path, I think out of survival in some way. And that's all we can do. We're all doing our best with what we have where we are. His son coming to New York was actually the inciting incident in their story. He had made attempts before, as they spoke over Skype in their early 20s or mid 20s, but him actually physically coming to New York was, I think, the catalyst in their story in this life. Personally, I really want to see a part 2 and maybe a part 3. I would love for this film to get the longevity that the Before trilogy had the privilege of having. I believe this story has the capacity and potential for that. It's very clear after Hae-sung left, Nora's life completely shifted. I want to see what Nora does with this awakening, and I want to see what her life looks like, and if she continues to stay with Arthur in New York and deny her soul's calling, or leave it all behind and figure out a life with Hae-sung. I want to see Nora activated in her heart center. That's what I really want to see. So Celine Song, let's consider it. I think it would be really great. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, go see it. Bring tissues. It's very heartwarming at times, very sad, but very uplifting. And I think a nuanced perspective of relationships that a lot of us have experienced in some way, shape, or form. And it could be a very healing experience. At least for me, it gave me clarity or a new perspective on what another person in this type of situation might feel outside of my own perspective. And it gave explanation for me in many ways. I highly recommend it. If you liked this, please let me know in the comments or like it. I'm gonna see if I can keep doing these. Cool. I hope you're happy, healthy, whole and safe in this world and in your bodies and in this life.